Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special In the Spotlight. I'm Mike Kenichi. And if you were a fan of Little House on the Prairie like I was as a kid, you're in for a real treat tonight because we have three important cast members from that historic show. And they're going to have a big reunion coming up. They've had plenty lately, but this is going to be a very special one, which they're going to discuss. We have, of course, Rachel Greenbush, who played Carrie Ingalls for 8 seasons. We have Dean Butler, who played Amanzo Wilder for 4 seasons. And we have Patrick Labyorteaux, who played Andy Garvey
Ooh.
for 4 seasons. And we're so
How
delighted
about
to
how
have.
about if we, Mike, let's do
Yeah,
that again, and let's have it. Patrick Labyorteaux is the pronunciation of the name.
Labyorteaux.
Let-
You got it.
yeah, let's just go into it again. Okay, let's just start clean.
Okay, so we have Rachel Greenbush, who played Carrie Ingalls. We have Dean Butler, who played Amanzo Wilder. And we have Patrick Labyorteaux, who played Andy Garvey, and we are delighted to have them on. They are three important people, and they've had wonderful careers, but this show is something that will always be part of their legacy. And I want to thank the three of you for coming on today. It's a real honor.
It's our
You know,
pleasure.
I
Thank
I
you.
I know what's happening here. You watch the Patrick Labure show, and so you're sort of being spun on his name because of his podcast. It's actually no, never mind. But Patrick Labure show. Where Patrick, will you respond to that? Of course you will.
Of course, of course. I'll respond to anything. Of course, that's not how you pronounce my name. It's not really Rachel's real name. And of course, Dean, we don't know what your real name is.
It is my real name. That is my real name. Dean Butler is my real name.
You're going to go with that. Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah,
though,
I'm going with that.
I really appreciate the three of you coming on. Rachel, I want to start with you because you, of course, were part of the pilot, and I think you were in a movie, Sunshine, it was, and the director for that film really loved you and your sister, and he recommended Michael Landon that you two be Carrie, correct?
Mm, mm.
That was Joe Sargent, and he
Yeah.
used to pay us in band-aids. He would, if he wanted us to do something, he's like, I'll give you band-aids. And I know, I guess every 3-year-old kids loves to stick band-aids everywhere. But yes, Joe Sargent, they were specifically looking for twins, and I feel like twins were not as common back then. And so to have twins, the specific age Michael was looking for, Joe had told Michael that we were very workable. And the other thing is that my father had already been on Bonanza twice. And so Michael was familiar with my father's work as well and knew what a wonderful actor my father was. So that helped too, I'm sure.
Right. And I'm sure, Rachel, like when the series began, I mean, you were very young. It's hard to remember everything, but I mean, there's one episode that really stands out to me, and it's when Carrie falls in the hole. And that whole episode was gut wrenching. You didn't know if she was going to make it out. And then as the episode's ending, it looks like she's not going to make it. And then the miracle happens. But do you have any memory of that episode? And what was that like to be able to do that?
I do have memory of that episode. It's really a great episode, which has multiple kind of storylines being told in it when we fall in the air shaft. So what I can remember most about filming that episode was they tied the butterfly to my dress with a piece of fishing line,
Mm.
but the camera's frame is so small that it was within reach at any time because they wanted both the butterfly and I to stay always in frame. So I had to really try hard not to catch it. And the other thing is that they dug this big hole, this big deep hole. It wasn't too deep. It was probably like maybe 2 or 3 feet deep. And then they put a board, like imagine like a diving board that would go out over a pool. Well, the board went over this hole and they threw a bunch of sand on it. So you couldn't see it was a board. You couldn't really see my feet anyway in the frame. And I had to walk out at the end on this board, pretending to catch the butterfly and then step off the end. And when I stepped off the end, I went in the hole and then I had to duck down and hide out of frame until Michael said cut. And then that's where you get me like looking like I'm actually falling, is because I'm actually stepping off a board into a hole and hiding from the camera.
Right.
I'm imagining Patrick's thinking right now, what happened to the butterfly?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I probably smushed it.
You hope it got out some way, but that's a tough thing for the butterfly.
Well, I've worked with Edward Albert, so butterflies are free.
Yeah.
Yanked it right out of the sky, poor thing.
And Rachel, for the longest time, I was telling Dean this off air, that till I got older, I never realized you and your sister, Sydney, had both been on the show. Let me ask you, were there times where, I mean, how did they work it? Did they have you do one episode at different times, or were there times you both were in the same episode, just at different parts? Like, I mean, did they mix it up each episode?
In the early days, because of the child labor laws, that's why they usually want twins for children so young. In the early days, we do go back and forth within the same episode. One that I can remember right off the top of my head is Ma's Holiday, because Victor nails me to the roof, but Robin's the one that plays peekaboo underneath the bed with Mr. Edwards, and she eats the rattlesnake and stuff like that. So in the early years, we did trade back and forth within one episode, and as we got older, we would do one whole episode, except for the times that my sister broke her arm. She ended up having a bone cyst high in her left arm, and she broke her arm 5.5 times. And so every time she had a cast on, she couldn't work. And so I would have to work all those episodes. But other than that, we pretty much traded off until we got older, until I came to the God Sister. And then when we filmed the God Sister, we got to work together.
I just you said you ate rattlesnake. Now, did you really eat rattlesnake meat, or was it chicken?
It was chicken. But in the episode, it's rattlesnake.
Okay.
But it was chicken.
Just curious.
We're just going to pass over the fact that her sister broke her arm 5 times. I think someone's really wanting more camera time there, Rach.
That's right. I pushed her.
And Rachel, one of the things that was a great idea by NBC is the second season, I think the ratings weren't as good as the first. They were thinking of canceling the show, but NBC wanted to stick with it. They loved the show. They moved it to Monday nights, and then the show just took off. I mean, it became a phenomenon like we had never seen before. I mean, listen, somewhere right now, people are watching Little House on the Prairie. It's stood the test of time for over 50 years.
That's true. I remember loving Monday nights because we got to go see the episode all put together. Because when you're filming it, to utilize time, you film all the scenes in one location that day to utilize the best time. And so you're filming things out of sequence. And so to see it all finished and put together was like kind of a special treat. And Monday nights, we would get home early so we could watch it. And then we'd look for the Nielsen ratings the next day to see how well we did.
that was, Mike, that was a big thing on the stage, is that at some point during the morning on a Tuesday, I think Michael's secretary, Evie Malouf, would come onto the stage with a piece of white copy paper with the ratings scribbled on it. There was no big printout. It was just written down. And Michael would look at the ratings and assess what was going to happen next and what he needed to do next to respond to whatever the ratings were. He was an avid follower of all of that. That was a very big deal to him.
Yeah. I can remember it being a big deal as a kid.
Hey, Rach, did you know that you were doing the same job that your dad did? I mean, would you see your dad on TV, and how did that make you feel? Like both now, all three of you guys, and Clay as well, being on TV. Well,
when I was real little, I didn't know any different, but it's like kind of interesting. I've talked with other kids that have family members when dad comes to pick you up from school and he's got like car crash makeup all over. It's a little different, but I grew up with a lot of kids that were in the industry, either actors or stuntmen, or their fathers would be directors and stuff like that. So I really just thought it was something everybody did. I really didn't think of it any different than being something that everybody did. But now I realize how unique it was. But back then it was like, well, everybody does this. This is what we do.
And what's so weird is you guys grew up in Malibu, and it's like horses, stuntmen, and like it was like the Old West. So between being on TV and in the Old West and Malibu, it kind of just all felt kind of smushed together, maybe.
Yeah, maybe it did, because we grew up on a ranch until we were 7. Jack Lilly gave me my first pony. We drove it home from Tapo Ranch in the back of our Peugeot wagon. With people, you should have seen the looks people were giving us on the freeway with this.
I'm sorry, you put a pony in the back of the station wagon?
Yeah, in the back seat. We folded the seat down and walked the pony in.
Oh my God!
To drive home.
Wow! Wow!
Jack Lilly was our
that would have been a ride.
I mean, he had extra horses to spare, I guess.
Well, I think that one kept getting returned, because that pony threw me more times than any horse ever dreamed of throwing me. That pony knew exactly how to do it. And I think Jack ended up giving him to us because he kept getting returned.
Well, ponies. Jack had a son. What was his name? Was Jack's son Clay as well? So, like, the 2 Clays I know were on that show.
But we used to always call him Berkey.
Berkey, that's
you called him. Oh, okay. I gotta say, ponies can be really mean. I think they have this sort of built-in inferiority chip on their shoulder thing, and they can be really mean. I don't know. I'm sure there's a happy pony somewhere.
It's so true.
And Patrick, early on in your career, I'd say you were 8 or 9 years old. You got to star in a film with Lucille Ball, and I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, I think you played her great nephew, and I always heard that like she was very good to the kids and looked out for the kids and things like that. So just talk about what that was like working with her.
It was exactly that. She was really wonderful with me. All of my stuff, it was the movie Mame, and it was a big-time Hollywood musical. Gene Sachs was the director. We shot it at Warner Brothers and on location, and it took maybe a month to shoot my stuff, which was all of, in the movie, I think it's 2-3 scenes, but because it was such a big movie, it just, it takes a while. And all of my scenes, I was standing next to Lucy. So Lucy was in constant physical contact with me, whether she was holding my hand or had her hand on my head or on my shoulder or wherever. And I really took to her because she was really sweet. And I knew who she was because we watched I Love Lucy at home. And back in the day, it was black and white and TVs were black and white. So it didn't seem like it was that old. And I mean, to be honest, right, I think it was maybe like 20 years prior to when we were making Mame. So in those terms, I was, like you said, I was a little kid, but I had no idea that it was in the past. So I would watch an episode of I Love Lucy and then come to the set and talk to her about last night's episode like it was just on.
Right.
And she was so cool about it. She would talk to me and I go, whoa, what was all those grapes like when you were stamping all those grapes? It's like, did you get to eat all that candy when you were eating all the candy? And did you really drink Vitamita Medigen? And like
Vitamita Benjamin.
There you go. I can't even say it because I'm still drunk. And so she would talk to me about all of that stuff. And I was just really enamored with her. But also because kids know everything. They just sometimes maybe they don't know what's going on. But I did know that every adult was afraid of her. And I couldn't figure out why because she was really sweet. Wow. But I would know that everyone was like, my mom would go, what did Lucy say? Like, well, I don't know. Why did you talk to Lucy? She goes, I can't talk to Lucy. But she was really sweet. And then at the end of it, I wish I still had it. She gave me a Mickey Mouse watch that on the back of it said to little Patrick, which is what she called me, because my name's Patrick, obviously, but in the movie, her nephew or her ward is Patrick, and I played Peter, his son, so grandnephew. But but she called me Little Patrick. She goes, "Little Patrick, love Lucy." So it's like, oh my God, it's like I wish I still had that. But
oh my God, really, Patrick.
Yeah, I know, right? Amazing person to me. So,
right, and Patrick and Rachel and Dean, I'm sure you all went through this, but one of the things that when you were a child actor, you had to have at least one parent accompany you to the set every day, correct? Like the kids had to have
a guardian. Guardian.
Yeah.
So it's like some kids, like Rach would have a guardian. My mom would come. Some other times, other people would be my guardian. Just as long as there was an adult representative on set, along with a welfare worker who also doubled as your teacher. And Michael was not the problem. This was not designed for Michael and this crew, but it's in order to make sure that no one takes advantage of the kids.
Right. So
I never had a guardian on the set, Mike. I showed up as an adult. I was 18 years old when I started working, so I did not have the babysitter or the mom or the whatever.
Could have used one, Dean.
I know. I felt so lucky a few times. Once or twice, my family came to the set. My family's from Northern California. They came to Southern California. Remember, they came to the stage 15 and they sat and watched the whole thing and loved it. But yeah, I didn't have the familial experience that Rachel and Patrick had. I was there as a young actor, doing what I was.
I was thinking more when you were. I was thinking more of when you were in other things, though, as a young kid. But
yeah, I never was a child actor.
Right.
So it was.
He was never a child. He was born at 18.
Yeah. So I was sort of imagining what that might have been like when I was as a young teen, but yeah, it wasn't until later on and that I got the opportunity to try it professionally. I think I think the two of them, Patrick and Rachel, can both speak to it. It's a mixed bag being a child actor. It really is. I'm sure there's some really great things about it. They would know that. And depending on where you're working, there can be some very tough things about it too.
It's kind of confusing actually, because you're dependent on and have responsibilities of an adult, right? You've got to be on time. You've got to be set ready. You have to know your lines. You have to know the story. You have to you're being dependent on as if you were an adult. But then sometimes you want to go do something and they're like, you're too young to do that. You can't do that. It's like, but wait, I'm basically, supporting my family as an adult.
Right.
So it can be
well, I always railed against the idea that, if it would be like, okay, Michael Landon has just done this great scene. He's just cried that, 1,000 different reasons why he would cry, but he's just done this amazing scene. And then Michael Landon has to go off and do, history homework. It was just always a weird type of thing. Like Rachel says, it was the exact same job that an adult had. We had all the same responsibilities. We had an 8-hour workday, even though we were, protected. We, for the younger ones, that's why they had the 2, because they could only work 4 hours apiece up until, I think, 8?
Yeah,
6, something like that.
6 or 7, yeah.
But then you had to go off and do school, which sucked. It was like you had to have 20 minutes, and it would be like you couldn't go over your script. You couldn't get in or out of character because you had to go do a stupid book report on, whatever.
You had to do 3 hours. You had to complete 3 hours of school a day. And you couldn't, if you were done in front of the camera, you could get into your regular clothes, but then you had to go finish school before you could leave.
Yeah, right. I know. Tell the truth. Jonathan Gilbert never did anything in school, right? I mean, it was like he didn't read the scripts, he didn't know the stories, he didn't know anything. He was always incredible, Never knew anything.
Never make the mistake. Jonathan was always doing something, just no one knows what it was.
Jonathan, of course, was Willie Olson, Mike, and was so wonderful. I mean, my God, he was wonderful. Wow.
He got to be in Helen Meniere's class. I was in Mrs. Fife, so I didn't get to be in class with him. So I don't know.
Patrick, one of the things, and this goes for Dean as well. Little House was one of those shows where every time they added a character, the show was great, and the show just got better and better. There was never a character that they added that didn't bring something to that show. A lot of times shows, when they're hanging on, they'll bring in actors, bring in new characters, and it just doesn't work out. But it seemed like every time throughout the 9 seasons on this show, when they brought somebody in, like even your brother Matt, he was tremendous as Albert. I mean, he really was.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Yes.
Yes. And I think even Jason Bateman, he played James, didn't he? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who is that? So,
when everybody came in, they just did a phenomenal job, and those characters were so lovable. They have a part of that history, and that's a credit not just to the writers, producers, but also the people playing those parts, like yourself, your brother Matt, Dean, because it's not easy to come into a successful series and try to fit in. But you guys did a great job with that.
Patrick has worked on both sides of this extensively, and he's good. The phone's ringing everywhere now. I think so much of this work of getting the right people in the situation is about making the right decision in the casting office and just sensing that the vibe is right with the person. And then, of course, you have to have the writing that's going to work, and people have to be able to deliver the goods when it's time. But so much of the work, I know, Patrick, you could speak to this. It's a really about identifying the person who's the right person in that moment.
Yeah, I think Mike and you are both right in that the reason why I think the expansion of Little House was always successful was that Mike was really good at casting. He and Susan McCrae, they did a great job at finding people that were just kind of like the characters, so that you weren't ever dealing with, you get what you get. So it's sort of like that's who it was. Like, I mean, look, if you read Dean's book, he was that fresh, bushy eyebrows. I don't know. Blonde-haired,
hayseed guy.
Hayseed.
That's what Melissa called me, was the hayseed. Yeah.
But I mean, you look at that, and of course, no one would ever care about any of this. Forgive me, Rach, but if it wasn't for Melissa and Michael, the fact that you could see that they really had a relationship. That's what I watched the show for, was that, this cool girl, Laura, who has all these adventures, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that by what Dean's saying about casting is absolutely true. You mean, it's pretty rare for them to lose a character like Mr. Edwards, who's a huge hit, and then replace him with Merlin Olsen and have it not even break stride. Like one stride to the other. It was just really, really amazing.
The only thing I would add to that is that sometimes Michael did write stories for specific actors, and so that that also lent to it too, because he was really good about creating work for other actors and writing special stories just for them. And from what I understand, when he met Merlin, it reminded him so much of Dan Blocker that they instantly had a rapport with one another, and that probably helped that transition on screen because they already had such a great relationship.
Well, Michael's super smart. He looks at that relationship of big guy, little guy, all the way from Bonanza, which again ran for 20 years, and then him and Mr. Edwards.
14.
Was it only 14? He said
14.
Amazingly.
14. Yeah.
Where it's just sort of like he understood that Laurel and Hardy quality, which he and Merlin had, big guy, little guy. Men Will Be Boys is my favorite episode, and they're so funny in it. And they're diametrically opposed and such a good complement to each other. And Mr. and Mrs. Olsen, that dynamic with their relationship. And I think when you add my brother Matthew, Albert, and Laura, that dynamic,
Yeah.
And so it is very interesting when you look at that, because right around this time, Happy Days jumped the shark, and there's lots of conversations about when, a show jumps the shark. And I don't think they ever did on Little House. I mean, if anything, I think it just sort of continued on in a natural, way that, marrying off Laura, having her become a teacher, having it all kind of grow into the storyline.
And think about one of the things you talk about, not jumping the shark. Michael decided that it made sense to have his family move for a better life. So you don't see them much in the final season. And that says a lot about him as the story he's trying to tell, because he wasn't afraid to kind of write himself out of there too. So, I mean, that says a lot about just how phenomenal he was, not just as an actor, but as a writer, director, whatever. Yeah.
I think he recognized that. I mean, my sense of it always was that he reached a point where he realized that he had played all of those scenes. He had done those stories, and it was time. And he had done his, I think he'd done a wonderful job of reinventing those dynamics later with Jason Bateman and Missy Francis, to create that youthful quality again, that he could be that father and have those touching scenes sitting by the side of a creek or by the fire or whatever and talking truth. But I just think he realized it was time to let it be in the hands of, of the older generation. And once Laura was married, he couldn't play those scenes with her anymore, with her sitting on his lap. It just, it just wasn't going to happen. But I agree with, I agree that it takes a lot to realize it's time to step out. And whether he made the right choice or not.
I'm guessing, but it may be true. I'm going to say it is true that he's the first to use A New Beginning as a subtitle, which then later went on to be like from everything from, Star Trek to Friday the 13th.
Oh, the Next Generation. And yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. He was a wonderful creator. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Rachel.
It's okay. And he did it in a way that just made it feel like it was the natural evolution to follow Laura and her family now in the way that he did it. It just felt like so natural to go that way and keep following her now in her married life on the farm and stuff like that. He was really just brilliantly creative, and his foresight and forethought of lining things up was amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
No, absolutely. The last three movies were opportunities to tell some nice stories, but really the last three movies were really about the last farewell to give him the opportunity to really button up the Walnut Grove story. And I think he did it as dynamically as you could ever end a series. I mean, just explosively big the way he chose to end it.
So you guys did episodes after me and Merlin moved to Sleepy Eye?
It's amazing. Yeah, just a few.
Interesting.
Not a lot more, but a few more. Yeah.
Okay. Rachel, I mentioned earlier about being in the same episode with your sister, but there was one episode, I think it was in 1978 or 1979, where Charles goes away for a month and Carrie's lonely, so she invents an imaginary friend named Alyssa. And I think you and your sister are both playing those scenes together. So just talk about that episode, because that's one of the popular episodes of that series.
That was a fun episode to film, not only because we both got to work together, but also because it was my first experience ever working with a green screen with some of the stuff that we were doing. And the one time where we see the big berry and we have to eat the big berry, it was actually made out of balloons. It was like a balloon grate, this big thing. And behind it was a pan with like berry juice in it, like syrup, not real sweet, but real kind of thick. And I had to take the little balloon that was sitting in the pan and pick it up and act like I was eating it, but smear that berry juice all over my face and then say yum. And when I get chased by the spider was actually on this little miniature set off to the side. So you get to watch him and how they would they actually corralled that spider to run out so it would go like the way I went, like when they laid it and edited it together. So it was actually some really neat experiences.
Right.
I mean, Michael was a very inventive filmmaker. And Patrick, I think you can speak to this because you have been so extensively on that other side. That green screen thing, you weren't seeing a lot of that kind of work done at that time.
It was like one of the first. It was one of the first times I ever used it. It was, I think they called it introvision, and it was a new technique that, again, at the time, around that time, they were still using blue screens for like Star Wars and motion control cameras, but this was a video product. And Michael's done the same thing, too, with the Steadicam. We're the first show ever to use a Steadicam. I think the next one was Rocky. And Garrett Stedman was the guy that was operating it, and it was like a brand new thing, but Michael figured out a way to use it. So here you got this show that's taking place, in the 1870s, and it's only the 1970s. It's 100 years later, but he's using all of these different, techniques to tell the stories that he wanted to tell. I think the name of that one with you, Rach, was God Sister. Was that right?
The God Sisters.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a great. And I don't know if they repeat that one. I haven't seen that one in a long time, but it's
gets
one
run.
of the most unique, like technically, like one of the, on the vanguard of like things that you would never, to do that on a regular, show that took, for us, it took 5 days to shoot. Which is like people at Netflix go, well, what happens in those 5 days? It's like, well, we shoot a TV show. And they go, oh, we can't do that. We still don't know how to do that.
And so, go ahead.
Well, Dean, what I was going to say is, and I think I brought this up to you before, but listen, I think while it was fun for you to get this part, there was a lot of pressure because guess what? Everybody in America loved Laura Ingalls. So your character better treated her well, or you know how fans are. They sometimes think acting is real life. So just talk about what that experience was like.
I became profoundly aware very quickly of how popular Laura was. It just, and I think I became very aware quickly of how, look, both Patrick and Rachel had been experiencing this for years. But when you first start, there is that you have a sort of a nice anonymity, and then people start to look at you differently, and you realize that you've been seen by 20 million people on a Monday night. And suddenly suddenly people are sort of getting a sense like they know you, and then they start connecting it. And I feel like I was always wonderfully well received by the audience. I never felt any negative. I'm sure Patrick has got some, snappy remark to make about, whatever. But I felt like it was always a good thing, And I think if Laura was supposed to fall in love with this guy, then the young women of America were going to fall in love with him too, because they, as you said, they loved her and they believed in her, and so it worked really well.
Right. And Patrick, I always say this. I was saying how when characters come in and the show doesn't miss a beat and these characters add new elements. I told you this prior, is your character, Andy, and your brother's character, Albert, and Melissa Gilbert, the bond the three of you had, it was like three great friends on that show. Albert obviously ended up becoming her brother, but the bond that you three had on that show, you just kind of wish that you were on it earlier because that was just a great friendship to watch throughout the years.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I was really proud of that in as much as that I watched the show long before I was on the show. I joined the 4th season, so I'd watched 3 seasons of the show. And the thing that, the story I always tell is I watched it on 2 days after I'd watched an episode, I was on the set in the hay, in the hayloft fighting the wolves. I don't know if it was with you or Robin, but it was like, yeah. So it was like, it was weird for me. And then to get to know Melissa, and I think what Andy was for Melissa or for Laura was a good regular friend, where they had the villain, they had the regular Nellie, and then they had now Andy as a regular friend that could be on her side. And then with the addition of Albert, obviously, the con man from the big city who's always coming up with, the angle on whatever it is that's happening. I think was, and again, Andy was just the wide-eyed innocent, like just a kid from the prairie. And going back to the relationship with Laura and Almanzo, one of the things I loved about Dean's performance was he was dreamy enough for the idea that Laura would fall for this guy, but also non-threatening in any way, so that no one who watched the show was ever worried about Laura. She was always in control of that relationship, which I think is a huge thing, not only for the followers of the books, but the followers of the TV show, which is like, as soon as you add another prairie man to the plug for Dean's book, to the show, it could have just been a guy that wanted to take over that relationship, because again, Laura was younger than Almanzo. But and I say this because it was written this way, but I think Laura was smarter than Almanzo, and but Almanzo understood the world better than Laura, so it was like a great combination.
Yeah, it really was, and I mean,
I want to amplify that a little bit, Mike. I mean, it always had to be. I think Patrick is exactly right about this dynamic. Laura always had to be in control of the tempo of that relationship. It wasn't Laura Ingalls Wilder didn't write it that way, but Michael understood that for the audience to be comfortable with this age difference, it had to be her infatuation. And until that moment came when he fell for her, and then it's like just this reverence that was played in that she was always going to be safe. She had to be safe. That was like that was critical that people felt that she was always in charge, or at least never vulnerable to being taken advantage of in the situation. Yeah, absolutely. That was really important. Really important.
And think about this, and this is not to disrespect anybody that's, on one of the streaming networks. They all do a great job. But when Little House was on the show, there were channels 1 through maybe 13. You only had the 3 big networks, ABC, CBS, and NBC. So the fact that this show lasted 9 years and it was one of the top-rated shows in America, that's a tremendous accomplishment, because if you weren't doing well, guess what? They were going to get rid of you because they wanted ratings. And back then, there was you competed with 2 big networks, and you had to stay afloat.
I'm sure Patrick has thoughts about, and Rachel may have too. I think in the Hollywood community, people are rooting for your failure every day. And it's not that they wish you. It's not that they wish you. Exactly. It's not that they wish you any ill, but you've got something they want. You've got a time slot, and they want it, and that's what it's all about. That's what it was all about. It's a little different dynamic now, but it was big time. You're exactly right. It was a big deal then. Big deal. Yeah.
Do any of you? I'll start with you, Rachel. Is there like one episode that you enjoy doing more than any others? Like one that stands out to you?
I have lots of separate memories. I love Ma's Holiday. It's one of my favorites. But just a really special memory that is not tied to any specific episode is when I got to wear Melissa's blue dress and put my hair in braids and wear the blue ribbons that she wore on Sunday. I just felt so grown up, and like the torch had been passed from big sister to little sister. And I didn't know I could ask for things when I was off the show, but I really wish I had asked for that blue dress because it just meant the world to me.
Right.
That's very cool.
We really were a family. That if people say you guys are like a family, we were then and we still are. You know, I think it's unusual because you had so many child actors that grew up together, and even the crew members' kids, you'll see them throughout the school years. You know, we got really close with them too, and we were really tight knit and close, all of us.
And it seems like to me that you could all pick up right where you left off. Like you've been joking this whole interview with each other, which I think is awesome. And that really says a lot because sometimes you hear the stories, oh, they didn't get, not particularly your show, but shows in general, they didn't get along on the set. There was a lot of tension, things like that. But it sounds like to me, everybody on the show was friends with each other. And I think that helps make the show successful because if you enjoy working with each other, you bring out the best in each other too.
And it
without a doubt,
it translates in front of the camera. It's just like we were talking about the relationship.
No question.
Right.
I think that's true. I think we all recognized, and I certainly reflected. I have reflected back on this extensively. I think we all recognized that the show was so enormous. It was, I mean, other than Michael, who was an icon before it started, everybody else who came into the program came in pretty green. And so this thing was bigger than you were. It was always bigger than we were. And that, I think, creates a kind of esprit de corps with people where you want it to work. And Michael was the commander, and he was so just unambiguously in charge. You were going to go down that road with him, and it always turned out well.
Right.
Well, there was also a lot of stuff that was interesting that doesn't exist anymore, because when we would shoot in Simi, which was all of our exterior stuff mainly, we'd go on location. But when you'd shoot out at Simi Valley, you go out to a place that, there was no freeway there yet. There was one road. There was one road from the parking lot up to the set. There was no phones. There was no anything. So you were all camping together for days after another. So it was basically not only were you there with I was there with my brother and my mom. Rach was there with her, her sister, and Melissa was there with her brother. All the cast and crew had different family members there. And then we don't have phones. We don't have other distractions. We had backgammon boards. We had playing cards. And for the adults, there was appetizers and alcohol from Winnie the truck driver. This guy had a full bar set up in the crane truck, which I just loved.
That didn't happen until after 5 o'clock. Generally, that was sort of a 5 o'clock thing. That's the official story. Sure, it was sort of a 5 o'clock thing.
Yeah, the official story. But I mean, it was basically you're camping out with all of these cowboys, Jack Lillian, his brothers, and all these wranglers and stuff. It was no different. What was so weird about Little House, which I don't think that you can recreate, sorry, Netflix, but when we shot the Little House TV show, it was literally exactly the same as what we were doing. Outside of the arc lights and the camera, there was no other type of infrastructure out there that was, like modern. The honey wagons weren't really anything other than a nice safe place to change. And of course we had the catering, which was amazing. But again, I mean, it's just like a chuck wagon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you each this because I would think as you're filming this, I know your kids, and Dean, you were a little older, but did it ever dawn on you like, wow, look how these people had to live back then? It wasn't easy. I mean, you think about the episode where the raccoon bites, I forget who he bites, but he bites somebody. There's a bear that attacks, one of the characters. So, I mean, they did not live easy in those times. I mean, it was tough times. And I think that's another reason Laura wrote that book, was she wanted people to understand that, like, you know, it wasn't like today. Obviously, we live in a world where there's so many opportunities. There weren't a lot of opportunities back then. And did it ever like dawn on you when you were doing these scenes or working on the show where you said, wow, they had to live really tough back then?
You know, I go right back to what I just was saying. We shot up in Simi Valley. It was 120 degrees. It felt like we were there. I mean, outside of modern medicine and the fact that they could get us to a hospital within about 40 minutes, it was not that different. But I hear what you're saying. I remember they were doing one episode, I think it was the plague. Michael was always cracking jokes, and everyone's laying down. Everyone's got the plague or, you know, some sort of disease, and they're covered with blankets. And Michael he's walking by, and he sees me, and I'm covered in a blanket, and Merlin's there. And he leans down and he pulls the blanket over my face and goes, "Poor kid didn't make it."
I grew up on a ranch, so I still had to go get the eggs out of the chicken coop and stuff like that. So I didn't really think about it then. I sure do now, you know, think about how hard it was, you know, carrying the water and all that stuff. And you know, but back then I didn't. I just thought it was like living on a ranch.
Years later, I was shooting a documentary project about Little House in South Dakota. It was January, and I remember being outside of De Smet, South Dakota, on a crisp, cold January day with the wind howling across the prairie. I'm in a, you know, Ford Explorer. I've got the Thinsulate, you know, I've got all the most modern clothing on that you could have at that time. I am freezing out there. I think my camera's going to freeze in my hands. And I'm thinking to myself, how did people survive this? And it made me, you know, that it really crystallized for me. It was a wonderful thing to play. I'm so grateful that I was not living in that time. I love the simplicity of it. There was real clarity about what you had to do to survive, but it was by no means an easy life. By any stretch of the imagination, it would have been absolutely brutal to live in that time. I'm glad we got to play it. Very glad that I didn't have to live it.
Right. Rachel, let me ask you this. Again, like I said, you were on the pilot of this show. Tell me what Little House on the Prairie has meant to you, just not when you were playing it, but throughout your life. Because, I mean, it's something that you're always going to be associated with. And if that's, you know, the one thing that stands out about your career, that's something you got to be proud of.
I'm just so extremely grateful to have been any part of something so special that still unites families, brings people together. It has moral teachings in it. It is the blessing that just keeps on and keeps on giving. I'm just humbled and so grateful to even have been a part of it. It was just lucky timing for me that my father was an actor and his friend was sitting in a casting agent when the call came in for Sunshine, and they were looking for twin girls, and she looked up and said, well, you know, I have the perfect little girl, but they want twins. And he said, you know, well, Billy Greenbush has twins that age. You should give him a call. And and they did. Wow. And that's how we got started on Sunshine. My dad.
By the way, I love that movie. I remember seeing it on TV, thinking it was such a good movie.
Me too. And you two were so adorable in this movie. I mean, talk about precious. Oh my God. Incredible what you guys did.
My husband, Danny, he teases me that I did my first nude scene in Sunshine. I only have my diapers on.
Well,
the most disturbing part of that is first nude scene.
Yeah, how many cents, Rachel?
And Patrick just been for Danny.
And Patrick,
yeah, there you go.
For you, I mean, you got to work with your brother, which, that's something that a lot of kids get an opportunity with. But, when you have that chance, it's something special. And I know there's a story behind how you got into acting, and it's really cool. But, the thing of it is that you look at what you've done in your career. I mean, listen, Jag was a tremendous show. And I think you were on that 10 years, if I remember correctly. So, I mean,
thank you.
You got, and you do this great YouTube channel where it's, how to teach people to be better actors and things like that. And of course, the podcast, which I love. So, I mean, you just continue to work and work and work, and you haven't stopped.
Yeah, I have a cockroach mentality when it comes to this business where I just, you can tell me to stop, but you'll get more tired than I will. And so I'll just keep doing it.
Good for you, man. Good for you. Wow.
Right. But that's got to be rewarding, Patrick, to be able to do the work in actor school where you're helping and aspiring actors to go out
It's
there.
selfish because I got to be honest with you. When you teach something, you have to figure out what it is that you know in order to explain it to someone else. And then you're confronted with, that doesn't make sense. How does that work? And then you're confronted with what you don't know. So in a lot of ways, I believe my acting has become a lot better from having to teach people what it is that acting is. Because when I go then to do my own work, I focus on what I've told other people. And, it's sort of like physician, heal thyself type of idea that the more you're involved in an art or a craft or a form, the more you learn. It's like Dean's mentioned it a couple of times, and he's also an excellent producer. But I learned one of my most amazing lessons as an actor by being a producer. I produced a TV show, and I had to cast it. And in the casting session, I realized that why am I so nervous as an actor? There's no reason to be nervous because you're either the character or you're not. You can be a good, talented professional. You can absolutely come in and blow an audition if you suck. But if you're giving a good performance, then you tell the producers, you're telling the producers by your performance, this is what I am. And then they can say, that's the guy that we need, or that's the guy that we don't need. It's not a matter of want. It's a matter of what am I building? And that's what we need. It's like if you're building a home, it's like, it's like you need wood and bricks and mortar. And if wood and bricks and mortar aren't walking in the room, then you're not hiring them.
Yeah. I think that's exactly right. I think those decisions are made in about 8 seconds. I mean, they know that quickly. May not know that you may not get a part immediately, but they know. I think producers know, and I think, Patrick, you'd confirm this, in a very short amount of time if this person who's coming in the door could be the person or is probably not the person. But it's fine degrees.
Everybody has that experience with dating. Like if you can meet a ton of people that are attractive, but some of them you could care less about, and some of them you fall in love with, and it's exactly the same thing. You and sometimes, and again, there's always the outside where you wear a person down, where it's like they had one idea in their head, and you're not that idea, but there's something scratching the back of their head that, I don't know, this is really interesting, and it's those instances when perseverance and tenacity really pay off in this business. Otherwise, it's like you say, it's a fait accompli.
Right. And I mean, Dean, for you, I mean, you've worked with two of the nicest people you could ever meet in the business. Obviously Melissa, but also Karen Richmond. And I mean, you won't find two nicer people in the world. So, I mean, you've been fortunate. You get to work with just great people throughout your career. And I mean, I think that helps, like I said, because it makes you more confident as an actor and more at ease.
Yeah, no, I think it's always about the dynamics that you can't guarantee that you're always going to have a good dynamic with the people you work with, but that certainly is a wonderful blessing to have. And I think when you're in a situation like this, when you're doing something like a play or a series or a movie or whatever it is, I think that people are, unless they've just completely detached from the reality of what they're doing, people want to succeed together, and they find ways to do things together that, even if it's not necessarily a perfect match, but you find ways to do things together because it's what's needed to be done. And everyone puts their best foot forward. That's certainly been my experience throughout my time in this world, whether in front of the camera or behind the camera. People want to succeed, and they want to succeed with the people that they're working with.
Right. So there's a final 50th reunion coming up, anniversary. I believe it's
final.
Are we done? Oh no, we're going to be doing 50th anniversary reunions for the next 10 years, Mike.
Yeah, but talk to me about talk to me a little bit. It's
the first anniversary of the 50th anniversary. That's what it is.
Yeah. Exactly. But talk to me a little bit about it and what it means, because you're going to reunite with so many great cast members, and that alone. And I mean, obviously the fans are going to love this, but just being able to reunite with people you worked with for so many years, it's got to be something. I mean, it's going to make your whole holiday. It really is.
Well, it's going to be fun. So we're doing an event in Simi Valley. So we're going back to the location where we did the show all those years ago, and to the location where we staged the first 50th anniversary reunion in Simi Valley. But we're going back to a place in 1800s farm called Strathearn Historical Park, which was bequeathed to the city of Simi Valley some years ago. And it's the Strathearn family's home, and many other buildings have been moved onto this space. And it's a perfect spot for us to do what for us is our first holiday reunion event. I think that's the thing that's going to make this special. Is it's built around Christmas. It's going to be built around those episodes that people loved in the series that relate to Christmas, because that's just the vibe that it's going to be. I mean, we're doing this December 12th, 13th, and 14th. Christmas will be, 10 days away when we're finished. I think it's going to be really special. And we always love being together. It's a wonderful, those of us who can be there, it's a wonderful chance to be together. And I think the opportunity to interact with people who love the program, and we see that wherever we go, people who love the program. We see that in our eyes, in their eyes. That's one of the great gifts that we ever get, is you see the joy that people experienced as they watch something, and they just bring it to you. That you see it in their eyes when they come up to you, and it's magical. It really, truly is.
Right. Patrick.
Let me just tell you what, I just want to make sure, Mike, before I yield the floor to Patrick for his closing comment. If you are interested in attending our event, you can find us at Little House on the Prairie Cast Reunions. That's plural, castreunions.com. And tickets are on sale and available. And I hope people will consider, if you want to have a special Little House Christmas experience, come join us at Strathearn Historical Park in Simi Valley.
December is the best month to be in Simi Valley. It is gorgeous. It's absolutely the perfect time.
Right. And Patrick, what is it going to mean to you? I mean, this show will always have a special place in your heart. And again, to be around people you worked with for so many years, it's just got to be something that's going to be exciting for you.
Well, it's amazing that it was a couple of years ago where I had been, as you mentioned, because I'd been doing JAG. So I was not in the Little House universe and hadn't seen anybody for a long time. And we all got together to do a show in Burbank prior to the 50th, just sort of like it just happened to be where we all ended up. And we all ended up back at the Smokehouse, which is a place that we used to go to and then go to the horse races. And what was so weird was Melissa and Allison started singing a song that they would sing when we would get our makeup done. And it would be a song that Gladys, our hair lady, would teach these girls. And it was a song that I had forgotten that I knew, but it was like from my childhood. And it was a moment for me realizing that these people, that it's so easy to be aware that you were on TV. People will tell you that all the time. Like, I watched you on Little House on the Prairie. It's like, yes, I was on Little House on the Prairie. What was the bizarre experience when I'm around these people is, oh, right, I've known them for 50 years. And these are my childhood friends. I grew up with Melissa and Robin and Rachel and Allison and my brother. And seeing these people, especially around Christmas time, I mean, it's just so awesome to get to hang around them. And it would be like getting together with your, elementary school friends that you grew up with and going over, and again, unlike your elementary school friends, we did all these episodes where we had all these crazy adventures that, while they're fake, while they didn't really happen in real life, as far as to Patrick Labyorteaux, we actually physically did them. I mean, so Melissa and Allison have fought in, mud. I have gone through the forest with my brother. But these are adventures that I'd never, ever really have. Rach and I were attacked by wolves. And these are things that would never happen in real life. So yeah, it's a blast. And what happens is a lot of what's happening now is we'll just get talking, and when people come to the tables or when they're there, they're part of the conversation because they know exactly what we're talking about. They know it better than we do. That, trust me, for me, they know it way better than me. I'm shocked
it's
to find out the
amazing.
show continued after I left, but apparently it did.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun for fans too because they get a lot of behind the scenes. Because as we're
of course
enjoying being together, we're saying, "Do you remember when this happened? Do you remember when that happened? Or when Mike did this joke or that joke, or and those kind of things." And so they get a lot more than just what they saw on the screen. They really get to share inner relationships.
And Rachel, I mean, for you, when you see Karen, are you going to call her mom or what?
Well, I'd call her Karen, but when I believe it was 97, 98 was one of the very first get-togethers that Kent and Sue, the producer and his wife, did up in Sonora, California. And I hadn't seen Karen since the show ended. And when I walked in the room, we got to the reception late. And when I walked in the room, Karen threw open her arms and she yelled, "My babies, my babies." And she ran over and she hugged us. And that was he was such a role model for me on the show because she took care of me between scenes. She would make sure that, I was okay, or like, Mary's leaving and you're not going to see her for a really long time. She'd give me little tips and stuff like that. So she looked out for me all the time. So she very much was like a ma when the camera wasn't rolling to me. And I always tell people I'm so fortunate because I had a mother and a ma, and I had a father, and I had a pa. And people ask me if that's weird, and I'm just like, no, it's just I have both. I got a lot of different things from each one. So it was really a blessing.
Well, plus a lot of people don't know this, but you're not allowed to see your sister unless it's in the Little House world. You guys don't talk. You can't see each other unless it's for being baby Carrie.
Well, I got to tell you, this was a lot of fun for me, and I congratulate all of you. And I think that you should just take this all in and celebrate this because you're a part of something that's very iconic. And like I said, right now, somebody in the world, there's a ton of people watching the show. It never gets old. Yeah. And that's a credit to everybody that's been on this show. And you three should definitely be proud of that because you gave myself and so many fans so many memories that we'll take with us forever. And I do thank you for coming on today.
Thank you, Mike.
It's interesting in saying that. One last thing is I went to the movies to see Wolverine, I think it was. So here I am going to watch the X-Men, and Xavier goes to find him, I think. And he goes, "What are you going to do? Stay out here on the mountain, play Little House on the Prairie?" So it's just amazing how many shows reference our show. It's pretty unique.
Yeah,
there's a great reference in the Bill Murray Christmas movie where Bill Murray is having a memory with he's in the back of a cab. And he goes, I remember I was outside and I fell down a hill. He goes, that was Little House on the Prairie. That wasn't you. That wasn't you.
I always remember the reference in Network where the terrorist was the terrorist who's on the UBN network is they're concerned about slipping ratings, and she's screaming about how, CBS has got this and NBC's got Little House on the Prairie and we're screwed. And it's like, love that.
And I mean, listen, that just goes to show how popular the show was. I mean, somewhere in the world it's referenced. I mean, that says a lot. And again, congratulations to all of you.
And it's all because of us, just reunion. Us three, no one else.
yeah. It's us tonight. There you go. Yeah.
Well, thank you again. Thank you for joining me, and I really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
And
thank you.
Folks,
take care.
This show is an iconic show. I would encourage everybody to check it. If you haven't seen it, which I know most of you have, check it out. But I would also look into this reunion. If you're close by, you should definitely attend, because these people, they never forsake their fans. They realize that the fans supported them throughout the years, and you could see it in every reunion they do. Every time they talk about the show, they never forget about the fans. So please just check that out. For In the Spotlight, I'm Mike Kenichi saying good night, everyone.